So no political background? No. So it's more like a genre kind of book? Yes. Oh, we don't publish that kind of book. Oh, okay. So, you know, it's just like, but it's a voice too, you know. Contemporary Indonesian young readers and writers is unique on its own, but it's really hard to make it visible because the interest out there is very wide taste in my own words, you know. And also, I just need to add a little about, you mentioned about book as a luxury good. It's also a problem in Indonesia because the book is it's not cheap. It's pretty expensive actually. And what's the interesting part is we speak a lot about India when it comes to this matter. We compare ourselves like, why the Indians can have more access to books? They sell books in very cheap prices relative to Indonesia. And that's why the book piracy is a big thing. And it's an issue because people want to read books, but they cannot afford it. So they have to they pirate the books. While in India, correct me if I'm wrong, this is something that I just heard, is that the government kind of supported the book to be cheaper and more accessible. It's like a more humble version, like they use maybe a lower quality of papers and everything, but that makes people, have more access to buying books. And that is also that I'm trying to approach that to many people in my country. Let's fix the industry. Let's make the book prices not so high anymore, expensive anymore. Because when we talk about digital books, there's also another problem, which is internet. We don't have that strong internet bandwidth, and also the digital book is not something popular yet in Indonesia. So we still rely so much on the printed version.
I love what you said about contemporary writing, by the way, because as someone, my books are fantasy adventure stories written in English. They're not talking about living in the paddy fields in Thailand, off in the countryside, wearing traditional garb, and people are like, oh, we want to hear, I'm like, yes, but that's such a small part of Thailand. And the same way as in media and film, when people think of Bangkok, they're like, oh, Hangover. Or I mentioned that yesterday that when the Western world thinks of India, they think of either Slumdog Millionaire or Exotic Marigold Hotel. And that's not encompassing at all of India as a whole. So I really, what you said really resonated with me there.
Yeah, but opposite to Singapore, I think we should focus on nation building because they're pretty much diverse, and being under the British colonialism, the colony used the identity politics and divide and rule. It's still effective to our society. That's why through literature, we still need to build the nation-building spirit in the literature, but not as a propaganda, of course. It should be through the voluntary world. But the problem right now is, I think the transport to the far remote areas of the countries cannot be reached out by the mainstream writers. That's why we keep saying literature inclusiveness and ethnic representations in the mainstream literature should be promoted. But we tried our best. For example, my prison memoir, we did an audiobook, but we cannot sell. So we give it as a gift. If they buy my books, yeah, we give the audiobook, something like that. We have been trying a lot to introduce so many forms of literature, but I think within the last 2-3 years, the readership has been pretty much improved, and the new generations, it shows so much interest. And in the past, since we don't have a public library system, we just use on the retail for-profit kind of the book renting, borrowing shops, and it went a little bit changed since 2-3 years ago. I think now people try to buy books. In the past, they try to go to that kind of the retail rental shop to borrow books, but now people try to buy books. So it's quite promising. We are in the transition period, and we now pushing the boundaries of its freedom, but we still need to have a nation building kind of a concept through literature.
Thank you. Pierre, anything to add about trends in Thai literature?
Yeah, I think that one of the main issues we have is with the translation. We don't have people translating it, and also the fact that, as mentioned before, people are interested in a very specific type of Thai literature, something that tells them about the old culture or the way people live. The issue we're also seeing now is that because books are starting to get censored, or media is starting to get censored with the military in rule, there's been a shift away from that and into music. So rap, like Thai rap, is now having a moment, or Thai hip hop, where these people from, you know, the different less economically developed parts of Thailand are rapping about the political system, and there's sort of become an underground movement that people are even comparing to Brooklyn a few decades ago with the
And that's literary culture anyway.
yeah, that is. That's completely literary. I mean, and the thing is, like with rap and hip hop, it's the lyrics are poetry. You know, it's a way to convey these ideas as well. Thai people also have an image of authors as kind of like old and boring. And I don't know if that's kind of, and everyone, they have this, they're like, oh, you're an author, okay. Like, yeah, cool, you'll probably be boring. So yeah.
We have a very strong tradition of literary talks since, during the colonial days. Now we back to this tradition, but it's like the one-way style literary talk, and the attendance sometimes is more than 10,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very, very strong. So that's why we're very busy, keep traveling inside the country.
Yeah. What's
Yeah.
like in terms of plans? Yes, come to my
So it's turned out to be now people want to listen to writers, not just for literature, but also for the political ambition and the opinion. So, but it's more like the one-way lecture style. That's why through our Pan-Myanmar activities, what we do is literature for everyone project. We focus on smaller audience, but it should be the interactive. So we recite the poems, even among illiterate people, to stimulate their sense of the literature and arts, and then stimulate them to stand up and join our activities. Sometimes they give us very, very flowery, very artistic responses, and it's really interesting. And then I think people started reading after this kind of activities they involve. So it's now a little bit changing, I think.
That's great. Right. Well, one last short question from me, and then I will open it to you. And so do get your questions ready. I just want to ask very quickly. You know, we have our own country's literature, or national cultural literature, and then we have this global literature. But what's missing is this thing, ASEAN literature, which logically should be the one that we go through. What are your own thoughts about ASEAN literature? Is it a possible field? How do we help each other? Would you like to share some thoughts if you have? No pressure.
Well, just one interesting, I guess, comment, and that India should trigger the ASEAN discussion.
Yeah.
I mean, we're so impressed with you, all of you. We're so impressed with India. I mean, that it should bring us together rather
Yes.
emerging internally, into a forum. So thank you, India.
And I guess one of the things is also, we don't have that one unified language that binds us together, the way that in Latin America, it's either Spanish or Portuguese for the most part. And so you write a book in Spanish and it automatically disseminates across. You write a book in Thai, it's not an automatic audience that's larger than your own immediate country.
Yeah, because it goes back to English for being the unifying language, but not really known across the region, and
Yes.
the translation issue. So it goes back to translation again. And then something I would add just really quickly, something that I discussed on a panel a couple of days ago has to do with who are the gatekeepers for publishing, who decides what gets published, something that you were speaking to. And so it's true that slowly, bit by bit, more people of color, more women, at least in the United States, are coming into positions where they are making these decisions about which books to publish. And so I do think that will be the next battle going forward.
Yes.
Actually, I'm very, I agree with theories saying about that there has to be like a trigger, like maybe India as the, again, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm just an outsider looking, and I'm maybe biased or not well informed, but I feel like India has stronger literature rooting, and you're also very experienced in holding festivals like this. And if the Asian countries can have like a gathering place, you know, for us to share our thoughts, ideas, and work, this
Eat and
will be.
collaborate and come up with ideas.
Yes, yes, because we also have Ubud Writers Festival, but Ubud is more diverse, and because it was Janet Beneath, the head of the committee, she's Australian.
I don't think there's been Thai literature quite yet that touches on third culture kids, international school kids, this whole community that is now emerging from our influx of international schools. My friends and I, growing up, we never had media that accurately reflected the way we grew up. We would either watch Thai films that were set in Thailand in local Thai schools, or American films that were set in American high schools with lockers, and every school is the same. But I think that's definitely one of the areas that's missing, is the intersection of Thailand with the international community and that world, and how Thailand is playing on a global scale.
What would you like to see your country's literature?
Yeah, exactly the same, because the same phenomenon happens also in Indonesia. There's a very, Indonesia is very diverse. So if you go to a city like Jakarta, you would see a phenomenon that, young people who knows more English words. Even I have to admit, my own son, he went to the international school, and sometimes he would read text in Bahasa Indonesia, and he would ask me, Mom, what's the English word for this? Just so he could understand better, because he understands English more than his own language. And this happens a lot in major big cities in Indonesia. But I think that also poses a specific kind of struggle and specific kind of situation that would be interesting to be written about, but we don't see that much, especially in the international market. It seems like they only want to see one face of Indonesia, one side of the story. So this kind of stories hasn't been exposed yet, and I would want to see it more.
I think what else is just to add to that, so I currently work in the film industry in Los Angeles, and there has definitely been more interest now after Crazy Rich Asians, after all these stories, more interest towards contemporary Asian literature, which hopefully will keep going, and it's not just a brief trend, but like, I'm hoping that within the next, 1 or 2 of my books that I'm definitely going to touch upon that, and I hope you guys do the same.
Anyone else want to? Okay, maybe one more question. Yes.
So there are many, so who do you choose? We have few minutes. Maybe combine.
We can have 2, I guess. Yeah, you and you, right? Who else put up? Yes, and you.
While thanking all the 6 panelists, I, as representative of Assam Central University, would like to thank you all of them for having their engaging interest in India. But while emphasizing translation as a very difficult art because it requires a lot of linguistic competence, I would like to know from all the 6 panelists what could be the more successful parameters for uniting all South Asian countries through cultural negotiation. I hope all the panelists will emphasize.
Thank you. Thank you for such a nice discussion. Actually, my question is, you have all talked about your problems regarding language and translations and all this. And I want to know, what is the role of your government in boosting literacy in your respective countries?
Wow. What's the role of government?
I think I can talk about the specific thing that happened in Indonesia after the Frankfurt Book Fair. Now we have a national book committee, which didn't exist before, but now we have it. And this national book committee is focused on international festivals and publications, and they invited agents and publishers from all over the world to give knowledge to our writers and readers about what's going on in the more global market, which is a very good thing. Of course, it's not perfect yet. Some people still complain about this and that, but at least now that we have that, I think it's more hopeful now. The situation is more hopeful. And we also now have residential projects for writers. They can assign themselves and to be placed in whatever countries they're interested in. And being paid for is like a full scholarship and everything for them to stay like 1 month in Japan, 1 month in Southern America. And we have that now, which didn't exist before. So it's a promising situation. I hope to see this kind of progress more.
I'd say that in Thailand, we definitely don't have enough government help in terms of literature. A lot of the competitions or awards that are hosted, a lot of them are actually privately funded, or organizations that have funding through other means necessary. And also, I faced an issue of, when I had my books published in Thailand, they said they rarely ever exported books. We would import books and translate them. So, we would have Harry Potter and Artemis, all these books, but we very, very rarely ever took the Thai books and translated them outside in a case because there's lack of a market for it and also lack of translators, and we don't have literary agents who are able to do that. Your publishing house is your literary agent, and there's all these other issues as well. So I'd love to see more government help, more government subsidies, schools, education, libraries, all of that.
Thank you. Well, I'm told that we have to end. We have to end because the next session happens in 5 minutes. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for your comments and all. I think we went over time, but we have all been very well rewarded by the talk. And thank you for the questions as well.
Thank you for you also.
I thank each and every one of you, the panelists and the moderator. Now I acknowledge you, though you have not been. Anyways, what a wonderful session we had, and I thank all 6 of you from the bottom of my heart and from the Publication Board assignment for Brahmputra Literary Festival. I hope you're having a wonderful time here. And I have realized one thing, the beauty of adversity is all the beautiful minds and the beautiful people who are standing right in front of us. Adversity creates beauty. Thank you.
Thank you so much for moderating. You're great.
Our next session begins, and the theme is Researching Real World to Create Fictional Ones. So I request everyone to sit tight and